All right, welcome back to the M3 podcast. We got quite a few people on today. So we did a sit-down interview that a lot of people have seen that was done at the office for our 5-year anniversary. I tried to do a solo podcast to drop, and that was not very good, so that was not dropped. So everyone here worked in the basement, and we're doing a kind of 5-year recap. Logan was asking if there was going to be any insightful things said today on this podcast. So,
Does that determine how much you drink on the podcast?
Yeah, I just wanted to be prepared.
Dalton's basing it fully on drinking levels.
He's already put down 12 beers.
We just have a counter in the corner of how many beers Dalton's drank. No, I think a lot of things have happened in the last 5 years, and MMG looks a lot different today than it did when we were moving into the River Market. And it's funny when we talk about these stories on trips that we've been on, and when I was watching that video, something that stood out to me the most was our wedding photos of all of us lined up on the beaches and stuff, and it was just like kind of all the things that have happened. Pretty cool. So I kind of want to just go through on, I don't know, individually how we've grown and the things we've overcome, and kind of just go back and forth and kind of stories and everything like that. So maybe there might be something insightful, Logan. Okay?
I think there will be.
Yeah.
Like how to wrestle.
We'll get to Dalton's wrestling skills.
Can't start with that.
We're not starting with that. We can't open with that. We got to lead people up to that. Like, that's just coming straight out the gate. Like,
Yeah, that was like a year and a half in.
yeah, storytelling. You can't just go straight to the climax.
That's right.
Nobody watched the movie. But all right, we're gonna start with Lauren. What would you say? When was the last time you've been on a podcast?
It's been a while.
Yeah, she's been a little pregnant, so she's
You're
very
not supposed
pregnant.
to ask that.
Maybe my water will break during the podcast.
That would be wild.
That would be
My
awesome.
first
cool.
mobile podcast was anything following.
That would be good.
We're in the ambulance.
Yeah, get the cameras. We're all going.
Somebody
I think
got
we'd
off
have to.
in the truck with them.
Yeah,
If it happens.
that's why these two have the road mics on, just so they're ready.
We're always ready.
Yeah, but what would you say? We'll start off personally. Personally, what would you say, like the most, like personal development thing has been over the last 5 years?
Mine's easy. Mine is definitely emotional intelligence. Just being able to control my emotions, professionally and personally, hands down, that's been my biggest improvement over the last 3.5 years of us with MMG. I think just not being able, or not reacting emotionally on everything has significantly improved. Being able to lead a team below me and not just react emotionally has helped a lot. That was by far my weakest link when I first joined MMG. It also was different because I joined a team of all guys, and I was the only female for a long
Just
time.
a bunch of bros in here.
Just a bunch of bros.
We found out Lauren was the most inappropriate one out of all of us.
She's
so.
a bro.
that is true.
It was an awkward 3 weeks before.
That was.
She
I
shows
was.
us a video from a concert,
Motley
concert,
Crue.
and there was floodgates.
All the titties. Yep.
Use your imagination on that one.
But yeah, so it was like at the beginning kind of hard because being the only female, obviously women have hormones and it's very easy to react emotionally. And also just being able to have hard conversations and not always feeling like it was coming at a personal level. Like being in a professional setting, being able to have serious conversations, but then 2 hours later, after work, still being able to go hang out with your coworkers as friends. Like just being able to separate that friend from work life, I guess. Because I remember I used to think every time you wanted to have a conversation, I was like, oh, fuck, it's gonna be bad. Like I just instantly always thought it was bad news.
I still feel like that.
You're welcome.
So yeah, I think that is for sure. I think everyone here would also agree that that would be my.
Which I think I agree with your statement. on the emotional intelligence. And I also think what I struggled with in the beginning was I've never been fearful of confrontation with males. To where I was like the hard conversation I just had. Like it wasn't like I was worried about having that. And when you started, I'd like go vent to Madison. I'm like, what do I do? I was like, she's like, just treat her like everybody else. And then like, so that's how I've always like ran with the company since. I'm like, I don't care any like male, female, I don't care what color someone is, anything. It's like if I have to have a hard conversation, I'm having like a hard conversation. And it's going to be the same. And it was just like in the beginning, I was always like fearful because women do have hormones, and I think emotional intelligence is something that's really hard for some people to learn because most of the time it starts off as feeling like an attack.
Always.
And I used to struggle with in the car business, but mine was, I think watching you in the early days, it was more of like a breakdown.
Yeah.
Like afterwards, it wasn't like you came back in like a defensive way. It was more of just like a shutdown. I always had the opposite effect where it's like, and I still like once in a while, like it's something I always work on more and more, but I would go more of like the more aggressive, like anger side. And I think just learning that ultimately when you look at a situation, you look at those things, like where have you been in a situation that you let your emotions control and it's came out in a positive outcome?
Yeah, never.
Because when you start looking at that, then you're like, okay, that makes a lot more sense. Like, but most of the time people won't step back to have that conversation to even figure that out. So very much agree with that statement.
It also takes a level of maturity to realize that it's a problem. Because, like, I remember, like, at the beginning when it was a problem and then I would vent to Ricky, like, I didn't realize until I got to the maturity level of realizing, oh, this is the problem. This is where you are fucking up. Like, and just being able to acknowledge in the moment, like when you realize it, you don't know that there's a problem there until you realize that the problem is there. And so, like, once it was acknowledged, being in those situations and being able to, like, in my head, be like, okay, stop. Even though 6 months ago, you would have just started crying and broken down and not said a word for 3 days later. Instead, how about we do this? And
I also think that's just level, like, I think it's maturity, but it's also like level of how you can comprehend, like, and think. Because the levels of thinking is like, most people can think about how they're processing something, but when you can start thinking about how someone else is processing a situation, that other person is playing off your emotions. Or if it's like playing poker and you're showing your cards every single time. Like if you played poker, you just flipped your cards over and showed everybody, you're going to lose every time. To when you let your emotions control, like you are going to lose the hand over and over and over. But it's also understanding how other people think. Like, okay, if I act this way, what's the byproduct of this? What's going to happen? That if I come in and I yell at Ricky all morning, I'm just an asshole to Ricky for no reason. I let my emotions win this morning. What does that do to the way Ricky thinks about me forever on? Or that day, it's a domino effect of what is yielded from it. So I think that's where a lot of people just let their emotions run their world, and then they also don't look at, like, what's the byproduct of that? What do people around you think of it? Like, that's something I focus on a lot is when I get around really high-level business operators, they're dialed in emotionally. That I can be sitting with somebody for 2 hours talking about business, and then we started diving more into personal, and then all of a sudden they got like 10 things happening in their personal life that you're like, holy shit, how are you even keeping it together? But like they didn't skip a beat that first 2 hours you were talking to them. So it's just having that ability to do that.
Yep.
Who's next? Ricky, you want second seat?
Yeah.
I am going to turn this AC off. You keep rolling.
It's getting a little chilly in here, man.
Dude, that thing is just straight on my back.
So I would say the biggest thing that has changed for me is kind of having a growth mindset as a whole, which is something that I've always had as a habit, because I think it is a habit. It's not necessarily something that you have or don't have, but how often you utilize it. And I used to be in the habit of reading all the time, going to the gym all the time, And that kind of slowly fell off, and it took a while before I realized how much of an impact it had on my life. But you start to lose some of that momentum and energy, and then it might be months later that you realize that you're in kind of a shitty headspace. And that's kind of what happened to me, and then I let that affect kind of some of the relationships in work and just the way that I would respond to things as well. And once I got back into the swing of focusing on a growth mindset and doing the habits each day that help build that progress in your life, that made a huge difference. And then you remember, oh yeah, just because I'm not good at something in the beginning doesn't mean I won't be good at it next week or in a month. You remember kind of that power that you have to control your circumstances and to get better at things.
Yeah, I think MMG as a whole, I'm not going to say the basement we were the best at, like the growth mindset side of things. I think we were just, personally, I feel like I was just in like survival state most of the time. So I wanted everyone to excel and do better, but I don't think I had any idea what that looked like. I think that level of thinking I didn't have yet. So it would be like when Lauren's shutting down, I'm just like, what is wrong with Lauren? Like, and it wasn't like I was thinking about maybe my delivery's off, like maybe the way that I'm coming about this is wrong, or the consistency in the daily habits that we were putting in place, I don't think were correct for the outcome that we were looking for. And I think as we progressed, I know I've fallen much more back into a consistent, the habits are different, but it's like I know what, I used to always correlate everything to fitness. Like fitness was like my getaway in college. The best shape I was ever in my life was like probably the worst space I was ever in my head. And I'm not, you can be in great shape, whatever. Like I'm not saying that's a correlation, but I'm just saying everything else around me was broken. So I've worked on being in a better headspace all the way around, from business to relationships to, I think what I get the most out of the gym is just clearing that. Like, I don't know what it does, and I don't know how, like, I mean, there's science done on it. Somebody's got answers out there that I don't have. But just the feeling that I have every day when I'm at the gym in the morning, regardless if I have a great workout or not, but it's just being there. Like, it's just me keeping that promise to myself, like, that I'm going to do that. Do I want to go every morning? Absolutely not. Are there mornings I miss? Absolutely. Like, so in no way, I hate when there's people that, like, act like they're beyond perfect because they've done this, and then it's like, there's people that go to the same gym I go to, and I'm like, you're not there all the time. I'm like, I know you say that, but it's like, have those habits and just strive closer to perfection. That growth mindset, I think it's something that, I mean, so many people talk to us about, client side, that like everyone here just is so focused on that individually also. But I ultimately think that's what moves the needle forward business-wise more than anything else. Because if somebody can't open their mind to personally develop, it's really hard to get them to open their mind to develop a business.
I would totally agree.
So I agree with that one a lot. Dalton, besides your wrestling career is over, but
And we'll get to that.
we'll get to that.
Sounds
Stay
that's-
tuned.
That's not a good ship, so.
We're getting closer.
I was sitting here thinking as Ricky and Lauren were talking.
I feel like I've developed in a lot of ways, but I think a major one for me is just understanding people. So just, being able to navigate like personalities and the complexities of relationships, and both on the client side, and that's typically a little bit older of a person, they obviously have different expectations and mindsets, and then also the, employee side too. Typically those are a little bit younger people. So I think, just learning people has been a place where I've developed a lot, and I think definitely have more developing to do in leadership and just, understanding how people think. But I definitely think I've gained some ground there.
Yeah. I think when you just navigating people and understanding every person out there has different tickers, and what lives 6 inches between our ears is what makes everybody different. And I always have to revert to, I try to always act like I'm talking to myself at 21, or I'm talking to myself at 18 years old, or because there's been days that we have people at MMG that I'm sitting there, I'm like, why would you do this? And it's like, to me, at current state, it seems crazy, but then I look back at myself at like 20 years old, I'm like, I probably would have fucked that up 10 times worse than that. Like, but it's the same thing with business owners that like I'll talk to people on the phone, I'll be having a conversation, I'm like, they haven't been through the same things that we have. They haven't, that it's like, go back and talk to myself when I was in the basement with just the 6 of us sitting down there. Yeah, that entrepreneur there wasn't super sharp. Like, so sometimes when I talk to people, it's take a step back and put yourself in that same situation. And I always had to do it in the car business. There's people in the car business, they get frustrated at customers, and they get frustrated. I'm like, this person may be financing their second car they've ever financed. Yeah, I know that we finance 15 cars on a Saturday. We can spend paper like it's not a big deal. Like, but to that person, that's their second largest purchase most of the time. It's a huge deal to them. So instead of trying to make everyone meet you where you're at, meet them where they're at. So, and that's, sometimes it's difficult when people are way past where you're at. So that's like, it's difficult sometimes when I'm around business owners that are talking on a level that I'm like, I'm not there yet. But then it's like, listen, learn. But then there's times we'll talk to a business owner that has 4 employees. I'm like, instead of talking to this person, I picture I'm talking to Dane with 4 employees. Yeah. That sometimes we'll talk like with the numbers that we move account-wise, so we're like, well, that's not very much money. To somebody, that might be all the money. So everyone's castle is a different size, and just understanding, navigating that. Yeah. I think it's I think that's comes back to the emotional side. It all ties back in, but just understanding people is a unique trait. Like it's something that better you can become at that. Like I talk to Madison about it all the time, where she'll be like, well, so and so doesn't want to do this, blah blah blah, and I'm like, well, how did you present it? And then she'll tell me how you present it. I was like, what if you pitched it this way, and it becomes their idea? That's something that I try to do all the time. Like I try to make, like, there's certain people that just want validation. They want everything to be their idea. My thing is I'd prefer it be someone else's idea that I'm around, but I led them to that answer, then I'll let them have that win. To where if you want someone, and if somebody comes up with their own idea, they are 10 times more invested in making that and executing that idea than if you come up with it. So like, I've like the art of like sales, the art of marketing, the art of all of it is like, how do you lead someone there for it to become their idea? Like when someone gets to a spot where I've even had on the sales side where I've had salespeople like you'll get to in 15, 20 minutes in a conversation and the person will be asking you if they're allowed to work with us and if they will, like if we'd even take them on. Like, how do you flip that script that fast? I'm like, it's because the person with the most power at the table is the one that's willing to walk away. Like, I'm perfectly fine with walking away. We're still going northbound regardless if that one person we're sitting in front of us on boards or not. But it's like, just that level of thinking to say, hey, like, by that point, they start pitching, they start coming up with their ideas. I'm asking them the questions of how to move forward with their business. I'm helping lead them to the answer. Then all of a sudden they come to the conclusion that their answer to their problem is that they need to start marketing. And they need more people to see their business, and they need to be able to execute on this. And then all of a sudden it's like, that sounds like a good idea. When we on board? But, yeah.
I've been given a great opportunity because, I mean, every, job I've had
Post-college has been working with people. Like it's all the people have been at the center, but the opportunity we have to be around so many business owners is just very different than the people that I've been working with before, you know? So it's just a whole new, I mean, I guess, yeah, we could say caliber and level of person, but it's just, there's such diversity in the business owners that we talk to and the people we meet. Not, they don't even have to be business owners.
Yeah.
Even just the connections that we've made. Like just such a vastly, I think it's just the industry we're in. We're like, we literally help, you know, small businesses and bigger businesses too, but just the industry we're in has given us a huge opportunity to see such a vast
Array of people.
I think if we look at just the network that we built around MMG in 5 years, like what that network's going to look like 10 years from now. Like, I think a lot of times people discount when you have an opportunity to be around the level of people that we're around just on a daily basis. But that's also why it's always been, or it's became more and more of a focus point for me, is to focus on that personal development, because if you're going to run around that caliber of people, the whole company has to have that caliber of person to be able to run there and speak at that level. And if you're not getting people to develop and you're not getting people to be able to have conversations like this, then you're talking to that business owner and they're like, yeah, maybe I didn't make a right choice here. Or it's just always developing everybody to say, hey, like they can hold their own in these conversations. So, well, you're next.
I'll go. So I think mine's pretty similar to Lauren's, but different in kind of where it stems from. And I'm going to say emotional control. And I think a lot of where my emotional control, not issues, but challenges came from was similar to Ricky in the headspace that I was in. And I think getting stuck in a scarcity mindset and like a short-term thinking caused me to show more anger than approach it as an opportunity to change the situation or improve. Instead of looking at the situation and focusing on what can I do to make this situation better, it was kind of a scarcity mindset in the terms of I didn't focus on solutions, I focused on problems. And I think what got me out of that was realizing that that's not going to get you anywhere. And I kind of came to the point to where, I don't remember if I heard this somewhere, if I just kind of thought of it, but I kind of came to the point to where I decided there's no sense in focusing on this negative thing or like the negative feelings that I'm having on a day-to-day basis, because this isn't going to get me anywhere. So what I'm going to do is set a date far enough in advance that there's a reasonable, highly likely chance that I don't feel this way. And then if I get to that date and I still feel the same way, then I'll bring it up, or I'll have a conversation, or I'll address it, or I will allow myself to express it. And by then, hopefully I've figured out how to do that in the correct way, whether that's a conversation, presenting new opportunities. But by doing that, it allowed me to get my head out of the clouds and to focus on what was going on a day-to-day basis and start to focus on solutions rather than problems. And I think that's one of the biggest learnings that I've had, is just not getting caught up playing a small game. Even if something bothers you and it's frustrating on a day-to-day basis, if you can't do something about it, unless you're going to completely change your circumstances or you're willing to walk away, then why are you worrying about it? Because too many people stay in situations like that and just worry about the same thing over and over again every day, but they never make a decision one way or another. Yeah. So I think that's one of the biggest learnings that I've had. Also, I think on the leadership side of things, when I was younger and had leadership experience, I was quick to, flex my power muscles or leadership muscles, and more quick to judgment and action than I was to giving people the benefit of the doubt. And those are some of the things that I think about myself as a young leader and try to focus on now, is being slow to anger, slow to judgment, and quick to praise, to where I can't expect everybody to understand or to think the same way that I do about something, because like you said, they haven't gone through it. They don't have the same level of experience. They haven't faced the same challenges before. So I think that's a big thing for leadership too, is not expecting everybody to think and know everything that you do, and just giving grace more than judgment and anger.
Yeah, I think to your first point when you're talking about the scarcity mindset, it's wild how hard that is to train your brain to think that way. And I think there's some people in life that never train their brain outside of that. And I still catch myself sometimes. Like I'll get caught up in a week that I'm like looking at payroll, looking at all this stuff, and I'm like, I feel the weight of the world on my fucking shoulders. And sometimes when I just take like 2 steps back and I look at what we've done in the last like 60 days, and I look at what the next 60 days are going to hold, and I look at a bigger window, it's wild how those problems like kind of disappear. But I also think that last year when we had content guys leave and we had that happen, it was something that we were so focused in the middle that ended up being one of the biggest blessings that we've ever had since we've been open. Like we had all the wrong people leave at once. Like I look back sometimes when Dre says like I'm the luckiest guy alive, after that I kind of think I might be.
How could that have worked out any better?
I literally look back at that whole scenario, I'm like, wow, okay. I never thought luck was a thing, but now I'm like kind of thinking like maybe it is.
But there's a reason too, outside of just the people, that it's so much better now. It forced us to focus on the system that we had built and to retool and reevaluate everything. It's not all just the people, it's the development that we've taken as a company, as teams, and as a leadership team.
At that point, I think what that made me look at was I'd always looked externally to never be leveraged. I never really looked internally on leverage. Like my thing is like I built the leadership team to have leverage. Like my thing is like I don't think it's bad for people internally to have leverage. Like there's most companies that will never give any leverage to people internally. My thing is like I want the leadership team, they should have enough power to have leverage at the table. But then it's like we let people that shouldn't be able to leverage us at a table leverage us. So we retooled a system, processes, everything that made it to where that scenario couldn't play out the same way again. And I think that's just goes to show what the leadership side has done as a whole, where I was trying to look at that as the bigger picture, but it's also sometimes when you can't see the next step and you're going into uncharted waters, it's really hard to see the other side. Like that is the hardest thing to do. But it's like every day I'm painting that beach that we're rolling up on that I still today haven't got to see, but I still paint it every day when I get up where we're going. So it's still every day it's going into unknown waters, but the waters calm out when you're making the right decisions. You're steering the boat correctly. At that point, we hadn't steered the boat anywhere. It was just going wherever the fuck it was going to go. And then we ended up in a spot, and then we're like, but once again, it's like I'm so thankful that it panned out the way that it did. And I look at our demeanor and the way that we run and operate is what ultimately ran all those people off. They didn't align with our core values whatsoever. And it was hard when we had core values, and I look at it, I was like, this is what we hire and we fire by. And I'm looking, I was like, none of these guys follow these things. But then I'm like, if they're gone, how do we get this part of the job done? So it was like, it was a problem, it was a sore that was over here that we just weren't focused on, that we were just like letting live next to us. And then it ended up like, it put us in the rock and a hard place to have to go solve that problem, because it was a problem that we ignored long enough that it just...
Eventually it broke.
Eventually it broke, and it presented itself as the problem right here. No more waiting. You got to fix it.
Now you're solving it.
But, I mean, that was why we had to go. We went leveraged money, and we did everything else. But if nobody can leverage us again like that.
That's also a perfect example of kind of similar to my point of delaying, letting how you feel affect you or doing something about it. And that situation, like at the time, it was very stressful for all of us. And we had a lot of people on the team that it broke. And that's where, from a leadership side, we're telling them, hey, just stick with the process. We've got a plan. We can't fix it overnight, but 3 months from now, it's going to look better. 6 months from now, it's going to look better. And I think it's important to be able to paint that vision too to people, to trust the process and to get there. Because now, through that process over the last year, I feel like we've gained so much more trust with our team that we have now because they saw it through. Now we're able to say, remember how, what the position we were in last summer, how good things are going now. Remember how backed up on content we were at the beginning of the year, and now we have stuff planned out weeks and months in advance. Being able to, it's just as important to be able to paint that picture of trusting the process as it is the grand vision.
And to the leadership point of all that, the power of leaders is being able to go into that storm and never waver on what's going to happen. Because we ran straight into that storm, and I'm like sitting there, I'm like, oh fuck. And then I'm telling you guys, I'm like, we got this. And then I'm coming home, I'm talking to Master, I'm like, I don't know what the fuck I want to do. I'm like, and then Dre's like, what are we going to do? I'm like, I got this. And then I'm telling Master, I'm like, we're fucking built for this. I go, this is what we're built for. I'm like, this is where champions are made. I go, I love being in a position like this. I'm like, I want the fucking pressure. Because if it was all fucking cake since day one that we opened, the story would be pretty boring to read. I'm telling you what, the story that we're going to get right just from the first 5 years, like, you watch that video that dropped on Monday. That video holds the weight that it holds because of all the things we went through. Mm-hmm. If that was super easy, that video we just watched, like, oh yeah, cool, we got from the basement to the river market to here.
Increased 2% a year, killed it.
But it's like you watch it and you're at least when I watch it, I sit there and think about all the wins that we have that aren't talked about.
Oh, yeah.
Those are the biggest wins. Those are the ones that people don't focus on, those are the ones that champions are made of. That when no one was watching, that we didn't have the spotlight on us, that we were closing a room, we're like, how the fuck are we going to fix this? And then we're coming up with solutions. I'm like, that's a lot of money, and we're losing a lot of money. And I'm like, we'll go find more money, but that was the only way that we saw out of it.
Step on the gas.
But I think most people get in a position like that you have a moment that defies business, that we'll have the same spot that we get to step into a year or two down the road, that we're going to have another one of those defining moments. I feel like that was a defining moment that we had. The way I looked at it was like, I sat at home. I'm like, do I not tell Madison I go leverage a shit ton of money and I go play offense 10 ways to Tuesday? Or I go in tomorrow and I fire half the fucking people, try to figure out how to pay for editing, try to get caught up, and we don't even think about selling another account. We try to revert, we go try to regroup, and then move back forward again after that. That's what I was playing in my head. I was like, the second one sounds like a real bitch move.
You're going to jump on a lifeboat, or you better grab a bucket and start getting water off the boat.
But that's what I was sitting there thinking. I'm like, okay, our boat's sinking. We need to fix this thing. Or there's a lifeboat here, and we can just swim back to shore and go try to start it again. Mm-hmm. But I was just, I don't know. I look at that, and once again, I look at that's the arena that you're supposed to be in. So just the position I put myself in, that I'm like, this does work. When it works, the outcome's going to be awesome. But like you said, you build all that trust. That and all those account managers, we had all those people on the marketing side that were like, overnight our whole content team's gone. And they're like,
I'm just over there with Jack, like,
Yeah.
please, buddy.
I'm going to give fucking high kudos to Jack.
Oh my God.
But
Mad respect for Jack.
But Jack also is, you look at how far he's come
Yeah.
and what he's done as an individual, regardless of just content, like what he's done as an individual and the person he stood up to be is huge. Like that speaks way more about a person.
100%.
That you look at the pathway that every one of those other guys took and look at where it's led them now. They've all taken fucking 25 steps backwards in life. That we talk about development, we talk about this thing, and all they do is they sit out there and they try to talk shit on what we built. If that's your form of marketing, I feel bad for you. I look at Jack and what Jack has done, and his friends went against him and everything else, and he stood up. He's going to make a career for himself in what he's doing. and he's just turned 21.
Yeah.
Dude's got
So
the
young.
got his
Yeah.
whole life in front of him. But it's
pretty cool to see someone that young making decisions for themselves like that.
it is, and it's hard when you're around a group of people all the time and they make a decision to go against it on what your gut feeling is of what you're supposed to do. But he's became a crucial part of our content team now. And I mean, it's cool seeing the leadership side that comes out of him now, but it's investing in those people to grow and develop. And I don't know, I love the fact that all those people have to watch this shit all the time. They got front row seats to it.
Yeah. Well, we've given them enough time on this
I know.
podcast.
Right, you're right. That was something I've never really talked about since then, and it's just like it's something that has always like I don't know.
Pour yourself a drink after that.
We're just talking about emotional control.
Alcohol is not the answer for anyone listening.
Maybe it is.
For me, I'd probably have two that I've worked on. I'm still working on pretty heavily. Is my organization and my effective communication. I feel like organization side is something that I always struggled with growing up.
I'll second that.
Yeah, I always felt like I was drowning no matter what it was, personal life, business life. And that's something I focused heavily on, and I feel like now I'm more so focused, or now I'm living life, not letting life happen to me, which has become a really good feeling, and it has alleviated a lot of stress off my plate. And I've actually been a lot more happy since I did that.
You don't think it's us making more money to where we're not just bleeding out?
I think that comes into it a little bit, but it got to a point where I'm like, I justify things where it's like, is this something that is immediately solvable this current moment? If it is, great, do something about it. If it's not, don't sit there and just dwell on it because it's something you immediately cannot change. I've started to live by that because if it's something that I can go out, I can work later, I can get it done, great, I'm going to do it. If I can't, I'm not going to let it take up time that when I step out of the office and I spend time with my wife, I'm not taking that time from her because that's selfish. So me being more organized allows me to take those actionable steps on my personal forefront. Effective communication. I know we've touched on it quite a bit with like the emotion stuff, but it's always looking at a issue or problem from multiple angles, because that's one thing is we've had some individuals where a problem arises and it's the biggest issue at that moment. When you sit there, you take a step back, look at it from whether it's the client's perspective, their perspective, and then my perspective. Those are all three different perspectives of the exact same issue. But it's like once you can see why it's an issue in their shoes, it makes coming to a solution much more easy. And it's also, like you talked about earlier, is guiding someone down that path to get there. It's also being placed in situations or conversations where the topics are a lot different than anything we've spoke about. I've currently spoke about. Numbers are completely different. We always talk about castles are different sizes. Some of these castles it's a very different size, but being in those rooms, being a sponge, and when a topic arises, communicating in somewhere, not BSing someone, but it's sitting there making an educated conversation or topic to make sure that entire conversation goes the correct way. So those are probably my two that I've been focusing on the most over the last 6 to 12 months.
Yeah, organization, it's not a sticky note frenzy and going on in your office, which that's good.
I only have a few now. Only have a few.
But it's when you start getting, once again, you can't run off of motivation. You have to run off of consistency and discipline of what you do every day. If you're disciplined about doing the things that need to be done every day, when they show up on your plate, knocking them out. It was today I literally got in the car and somebody emailed me with like 6 different dates on like when to meet and have lunch, and I like looked at it and I was like, you know what, I'll just handle that later. And I'd already had 2 people text me today that they're like, hey, is there a good date for that lunch? I'm like, oh shit, totally forgot about that. And I'm like, so I literally was like, you know what, I'm just gonna take a minute, email back, this date, this time works. sends me over a calendar invite, the whole thing's handled. But every single time, just those little things stack up so fast. And I think those things build pressure inside. I remember when we were in the River Market, I remember sitting over by the bathroom, like the round table there.
And looking at Ricky's calendar.
And I was telling Ricky, like, all these different things. He's like, we need to grab the whiteboard. We need to go in here and jot down all the stuff that's on your head. That's why I wasn't really using my calendar. So it was just the Wild West. I'm like trying to remember every time, and I was like, I felt like my head was going to fucking explode.
All those ideas were just bouncing around, person you had to contact, all kinds of stuff going on.
And then I'm like meeting with people, and I'm coming back trying to relay everything. They're like, what are they going to do? I'm like, I don't know. Like, but becoming organized, front side feels like a lot of work. As you progress more, it actually alleviates and makes it feel like you have a lot less work.
Yeah, I've with my position, I have a lot of things that just come up out of the blue and need to be handled immediately. But with that being said, those are things where I now have a notepad. It's something very simple where you just jot stuff down. It's immediately just brain dump.
Not sticky notes anymore.
Not sticky notes. I've ventured to larger paper because I got larger notes.
And it's got lines, so
Yeah.
it's way more organized.
Very organized. But I sit there and I just brain dump because I sit there and same thing you said. It's like you'll think about something, and then all of a sudden you have 2, 3, 4 other things just pop up that need to be immediately handled, and then you get done and you sit there for 5 minutes going, I had something I needed to do. And so I sit there and it's like I do that, and I sit there when I go in the morning. If I think of anything or if I'm laying in bed, I just put it into my notes and I brain dump it that morning because we've all laid in bed sitting there with your mind going a million miles an hour.
I have good thoughts there.
You can't go to
Most
sleep.
of the time I don't remember them the next day. I'm like, I had something.
You need a notes page.
I don't think I would, it'd be impossible for me to go to sleep.
You just dump it and then you forget about it. And then next morning you read
And
it.
I have
you're like,
another idea, and then they're compounded ideas.
No, but I found out that is something that has helped me. It's very simplistic, but it's something where could it be tailored better? Yes, but it's something that works for me.
So wild thing is when we're in the car business, you go to Dre's cubicle, and he'd have every bit of probably 75 to 100 sticky notes. They were organized, lined up in his little window thing. And I come over, I'm like, Tim is looking for a white F-150. I was like, we got 4 of them sitting out there. He's like, yeah, I'll call him. And then later I come over, I'm like,
I flip pages. I operate off one page now.
so I go over there, I'm like, what'd Tim say? He's like, he bought somewhere else. I'm like, you know that truck's 25 days old? That white F-150 is 25 days old.
I don't think Tim liked that one.
I would
we
literally
talked
sit
to
there.
him a
I
few
just like go
times.
through. I'm like, we got that car, we got that car, we got that car. You call him, he's like, I've already bought. They don't answer. I'm like, wild to me. Organization has came a long ways. Like when I go in your office, like, I mean, between you, Logan, sometimes Dalton, the water bottles on the desk, crazy.
We are hydrated.
Dre doesn't even
That could
drink
be
them.
that could be beer
That
cans.
is
You want to
true.
come in there and just have beer cans all over?
Dre does.
Mostly fucking empty ones in the trash can. I don't know what you're talking about.
I mean, Logan does go rogue. Logan will have like 8, and he's like, that was from like the last 30 minutes, dude. I'm like, how does someone drink that much?
I don't believe that. I was like, they were there 3 days ago when I was in here too.
No, I don't like get the point of like carrying around a water bottle with like this much water in it. So just drink the whole thing at once and throw it away. And then if you need another one, drink another one.
Dude, I'll carry a half finished energy drink for
2 hours.
That's
That's
different.
true.
You have
Leave it
to
somewhere.
regulate your caffeine intake so that you get a sustainable amount throughout the day.
There you go.
Doctor.
Or you just drink like 3 energy drinks throughout the
just
day.
I've
have,
been
like-
pretty bad about
Yeah.
that.
3 hits throughout your day, 3 bumps.
Get you to the end of the day.
3
That is one thing
Now
that's
you
increased a lot as we've scaled is our amount of energy drinks we buy.
That's first. That
Fun fact, mine's gone down drastically in the last 2 weeks. I'm like 1 or 2 energy drinks a week right now.
a week.
Are you
So
drinking
I
coffee?
have actually got off of. I'll drink a Lonnie New.
Okay.
I'll
Non-stop.
drink a Lonnie New like in the morning,
Yeah.
but I've really gotten to where I don't like drinking a full size energy drink.
Just 5 hours.
So I turned the cooler
How
in
many
the
5
center
hours?
console of the Range Rover into a 5-hour cooler.
How many are in there?
Like 15 maybe right
I
now.
don't think 5 hours are better for you than any of the other ones.
Maybe for the
So
acid
it's-
reflux.
if I take pre-workout, I count that as an energy drink.
Yeah, so I was doing pre-workout and then 2 energy drinks.
That's-
So I feel like this is a real big.
Right there, man.
Yeah, thanks,
Those are
man.
good levels. Those are good
It
levels.
is. It is.
Yeah.
You crash pretty hard around 7.
Are you taking stem or non-stem?
A little bit of a mix of both. Yeah, a little you just scoop of the regular, scoop of the non-stim for the extra pump, you know?
Double scooping.
Double scoop.
Yeah.
It's like 2 energy
I
drinks.
did stop. I stopped drinking them completely for like 2 months, and the coffee was nice. Like I felt like the energy felt better from it, and I could like feel it more once I got used to it. But drinking coffee is kind of a pain in the ass. Like, you
It
have
really
to
is.
Make it or go buy it.
Dude, and then
I
if
was
I'm sitting in the
spending,
line
like,
at,
$10 a day at Rochester,
dude,
I was like, you know what's cheaper? Energy drinks.
They're in the fridge.
yeah. Sometimes I would get coffee from Starbucks and I'd go through the line, I get it. I start drinking it. I'm coming down 152. It like dribbles on my shirt. I'm like, oh. And then I'm like, turn left on Flintlock, coming back to the house. I'm like, I didn't even make it out of Liberty. I've already got shit on my shirt.
What would you say your biggest?
I
is,
was
though?
just gonna ask that.
I think I got a laundry list of them. I think I'm a completely different person now than I was 5 years ago.
We'll give you top two.
I think my biggest one is I think I'm much more open-minded now. I think I think I'm still hard-headed, but I'm not near as hard-headed as I used to be. That I'm okay with trying things that isn't 100% my way. I still hold true to what our brand's supposed to be, and if anything veers into adjusting that, like I'll put my foot down, but I feel like outside of that, like I'm open to trying things differently now. I've seen so many things work that weren't my way and work really well that it's, I think I had this complex in my head early on that I was really, really good at everything. As I've progressed, I figured out I'm not the best at everything. So that's probably the biggest one.
Was that a humbling moment?
No, it's actually a very freeing moment.
I would say that as you progress in that, we progressively felt more power to lead and make decisions ourselves. And the moment you created the leadership team is probably when that switch flipped the most. Because up until then, I think, at least for myself, and I won't speak for any of these guys, but I felt stuck. Like I knew that I wanted to make improvements and wanted to see change, but I didn't know how that was going to happen.
And I think my stay, I had no earthly idea what that looked like. And once again, I think it's hard when you're in like unknown waters, taking on so many different things that you have no earthly idea how to do, that just like adding another thing that you have no earthly idea how to do is just like, I didn't know what that turned into. And then it's also, there's a lot of things that have been handled that I would have done them differently, and they panned out exactly the way I kind of thought it was going to, but it's also like great learning lessons that I don't get frustrated because I don't see the same things happening over and over. I see those things happening. I see people develop and learn around it, to where that's what ultimately I watch, that the internal movement is happening and the growth is happening because people are learning from those mistakes, that they're going to happen. And it's like same conversation I've had with you guys, that like sometimes you have to let people fall. And I think forever I tried to be this like safety net, but ultimately I think people just end up stuck in the net, and you feel stuck. That's because you are. Like, so let people fall, let people figure out what it's like, and that ultimately is what's going to help them move forward. So I think that was a big one, and my second one is probably just being okay with being in the present. That I can have that big lofty goal, but it's not going to happen tomorrow. It's like I want to run this thing 2,000 miles an hour. At the end of the day, it can run as fast as we push it, but it can't happen overnight. Then I think watching documentaries on Disney, on Bezos, on Ford, on all of them, like none of them did it overnight. Like none of the empires that were built were done overnight. It's like, so that probably goes with like patience. I mean, just working on my patience a lot more. Like it used to be, I had road rage like crazy driving in. Like
I think you still do.
Sometimes it's mostly Subaru.
It's
drivers,
a work in progress.
But Subaru drivers really blow my mind sometimes. But just I don't know, my peace. Like when I drive up to the lake, I drive slow and I just listen to music, and it's like I'm at peace with where I'm at.
Probably a good thing since you got a crown on the back of your truck.
I mean,
I really have never really cared if anybody's pissed off about a crown flying by them or not. Like, if somebody's that bent out of shape about us speeding, I don't want to fucking work with them.
allegedly, I have seen some D-Maxes go about 85.
I mean, there was a while that Dre and I would run to the lake doing 90 miles an hour right next to each other. And
Allegedly.
There's a crew out
Allegedly.
there that just thinks that we drive way too fast.
No, that's fine. They can think that. I bet they drive
Lauren might
Subarus.
be worse than all of us.
Yeah,
Probably
it's
We're
a good
actually-
thing.
She's unmarked. She's unmarked.
She was behind me when we left the office, and she beat me here.
Yeah, probably by a while, dude. She got here, took a nap, and then you showed up.
I think I might be the consensus slowest driver here.
Dalton is the slowest driver.
Yeah.
If you're coming down 35, you'll see a Raptor do about 10 miles on the speed limit. That's Dalton.
That's Dalton. You won't miss it. It's blue. It has a gold crown.
There's nothing wrong with it. It does run. It's not broken down.
Out of cylinder.
No, there's nothing wrong with going the speed limit.
That's why they have a deal when it says like 65, but you can go 45.
Dalton's like, I'm going
Someone's like,
45.
I'm on 45.
All right, let's go into favorite memory.
Gosh.
Oh, who should start?
I'm going to kick Lauren off. See, you guys
Oh
get
my
time to
gosh.
think about it. I feel like Lauren's probably more prepared for this.
Me? Oh my gosh. Does anyone have theirs?
I think Dre's ready to go.
Dre's giddy as all
Go
get.
ahead, Dre. Go ahead, Dre.
If I had to
There's
pick,
so many, it's just like
I know.
There's a lot that I'm like not even thinking of.
if I had to pick one from the beginning stages of MMG,
No, it could be all up until now, or it could be like a one evening somewhere off yonder in a different state.
you know, now that actually brings something up.
Can't believe we forgot
So,
about that.
yeah.
We almost forgot it. Here's your climax if you're ready.
So, before Ricky and Lauren joined, we did take a guys trip to
It was
South-
an MMG trip. Just happened to be all
happened
guys.
Just happened to be
happened to be all
guys.
guys, MMG. It was a whole company retreat.
Company retreat.
Company retreat
All four of us.
to South Dakota. And on our way up there, we had to stop at a lodge because it was getting late. And obviously, we wanted to make a pit stop before we made the full trip. And we stop in, and the place, if anyone knows Kansas City well, it kind of reminded you of Great Wolf Lodge minus every slide. So it's just an indoor pool that like all the rooms opened up to.
Yeah, and if you think Great Wolf Lodge, think like 50 times smaller. It's a normal
Yeah.
sized pool, so it's not like Great Wolf Lodge at all. It just has wood inside.
But
like Great
the
Wolf
doors
Lodge.
open up to the pool. Kind of what I was getting. That's about the only thing that's similar.
Our room did.
Yeah, the room did.
A room
So
has two doors.
we
You
go
come
in.
in the
Are you guys telling the story?
No, we're
That's
gonna take-
crazy.
I mean, if we
That's-
let you
that's
tell,
crazy.
this is going to be its own
me
podcast by
finish.
itself. Yeah, we're never going to
Okay,
get to
so we go in, check
Why did you
in.
wait for the
Us
climax
guys
so
all
long?
put our swim trunks on. We're gonna go sit in the hot tub.
that.
we go-
Doesn't sound bad at all.
We all had a beer in it. No. Sit in the hot tub, get kicked out after about 2 minutes because they're closing. So then we all get changed. We're like, hey, they have a bar here. So we go hang out at the bar. And one thing leads to another. And a group, was it professors or something?
No, it was two guys random.
No, there was like a huge group that they were there with.
I don't know. I don't think the two guys knew each other.
Either way, there was a expo or something going on. And Dalton
I don't think there was an expo going on.
Dalton made good friends with an Iowa wrestler allegedly back in the 80s. And Dalton
At this
wanted
point,
to,
I went to bed.
yeah, Dane said he was
like
going
a
to bed.
goal.
Okay. So
I wasn't done.
You gotta give them more anticipation and like build up.
I mean, he's
I
taking
literally was giving the build up and you all just shit on me.
Keep going.
So we sit
Make sure
there.
it's all factual.
It will be factual, and we will plug the video if you stayed and you're on YouTube. We'll plug the video.
We might plug it on Instagram too.
Ended up, we sit there, we're all having drinks, and then Dalton and this guy are talking about who's a better wrestler. Oh, okay, Logan, go for it.
I never said I was
Jesus,
the
bro.
best, so I never
We're
fucking-
sitting there, and this guy,
How do I know?
these two guys are asking us like what we're doing while we're there because we stick out like a sore thumb. So they're talking to us the whole night, and this guy starts telling Dalton about how he wrestled at Iowa in college, and Dalton goes, "No, you didn't."
Call
It
his
just
bluff.
Completely calls the guy's bluff. So I think they go back and forth about this for like 30, 45 minutes.
This guy's what, 50, 55?
Yeah, 50 maybe.
70.
Dane was the smartest one out of the four of us. After he paid the bartender to keep the bar open later for us.
Yeah, the bartender's like, hey, we close at 11. I was like, what if I give you another $100? Guy's like, I'll stay open as long as you guys want. I was like, I gave him $100, and then like 10 minutes later, I'm like, I'm kind of tired.
And the fact is, there's 5 of us at this point at the bar. Everyone left.
Oh, Dane.
I left.
Okay, 5.
Then 5.
Everyone left, and it was just us 5 at the bar.
But there was an expo going on, right? A lot of people.
Yeah. So the weirdest part is that there's the 2 guys, and the alleged Iowa wrestler is the only one we're having a conversation with, and the other guys just kind of like hanging out, listening, not saying a word.
Just staring at Dalton the entire
It
time.
was kind of weird.
You didn't want to tell that part of the story.
Just know he just stared at Dalton the whole night.
You can hop back in. I just had to have this.
No, dude, just keep going. You're almost there. Oh, get to the climax now, bud.
So we maybe have 1 too many drinks than we probably should have. Dane made the smart decision to go back to bed. So they're finally.
I like how we
"Alright,
reemphasize that a lot of times.
We're shutting down. Like, you guys got to get the fuck out of here. So we're not ready to go to bed. Obviously, either. Dalton and this guy are still going back and forth. Do you remember how you ended up wrestling the guy?
I don't remember how the series of events led to us actually wrestling.
So this hotel's got a lobby area, and it has like a staircase that you can take
Kind of
up
like
to the
Great Wolf
second-
Lodge.
to the second level.
Now that you say something,
is, actually.
There's like this foyer over the lobby that it's all open air, so there's rails and you can see down to the it's not far to the where the guy sits at the front counter. So there's like benches up there and shit too. So we go up there.
Spectator
and
area.
We're just talking, and these 2 are still going at it about wrestling. And I don't remember what you said or how it came about, but they end up wrestling each other in the foyer at 2 a.m. at this hotel.
at 2 a.m. Let's.
2 a.m.
Yeah, you thought it was 12:30.
We were drinking for a while at the lobby bar, and then once it shut down, we go up there, and this dude was just egging Dalton on. Like, he's like, dude, I could take you. And Dalton's like, dude, then put up or shut up. So this dude sat there, and they sit there, and he starts pulling up. He's wearing like jeans. Starts pulling up his pants. I'm sitting there, I'm like, what? And he's like, dude, let's go at it. And I'm like, oh no. And I'm sitting there. Dalton's probably 50 pounds heavier than this guy. And Dalton's muscular. This dude was
Are you hitting on Dollar
a
right
little
now?
bit older. Yeah. Do you want me to go in the second part of the story? So ended up, they fight, and I think they do like 3 rounds. Maybe 5. They went for a while. And all of a sudden, it's like Logan said, it's 2 a.m. This guy comes up that was at the front counter, looks at us, and Logan at one point, he's like, guys, be quiet. Like, they weren't going to hear what we've been doing the last 20 minutes. He comes up, he puts his arm on the ledge, and he's like, you guys know it's 2 a.m., right? And the old guy, he's like, oh, man, I thought it was like 12. And we all look around like it would make a difference? And then ended up, it got shut down. We all went to bed, and that was the end of the story. We're just leave it there.
After like 10 minutes of wrestling, like these guys went 3 rounds. Dalton was missing half the skin on his legs.
Dude, the best part is we get up next morning. I wake up early. I call Madison. I'm watching the sun come up over this like lake, over this pool. All these big windows out the back, like
Kind of like Great Wolf Lodge.
kind of like River Watch. And I'm like watching this. I'm like, this is nice. I'm like, and they're in there sawing logs. And well, at one point, I think that's too when I got pissed off about the alarm.
No,
Is that a different
that
trip?
was the next night. No, it was the same trip.
Same trip, yeah.
It was
Yeah. So
We got to tell that story.
yeah, dude. So I'm out there. I'm talking to Mass and everything. I was like, yeah, I went to bed early. I was like, I think everyone probably came back right after me. I was like, don't think a whole lot happened. And then they all start getting up and they're like, death. So I'm like, hey, load up the car. We were trucking the rest of the way there and going on a hike. And we get in the car and everyone falls asleep like immediately. So I'm just driving by myself and they're all sleeping in the car. And then we get there. Dalton gets out. We look right. Dalton's covered in rug burns and has a cigarette in his mouth. And we're like, what are you doing? He's like, I'm having a fucking cigarette.
We're about to go on a hike. Just keep that in mind.
Yeah.
I think also too, how old was this guy? Because I remember watching this video for the first time, and I was like,
Dude, he had to been
this
50.
is an old man. Like,
I
he
think
did.
we debunked the myth that he was an Irish. I don't care how old you are.
Hey.
He had no fucking skill.
I will say Dalton did win.
Fucking
Dalton made this guy look
Dalton
silly.
slammed this dude on the ground. I'm like, he's gonna break his head.
At one
And
point,
finally, I'm like, all right, I don't know what the position is where you're like on the ground. It's like a set position.
I don't know.
When the
When
person
they're
is
over-
down,
over
you
the
go
top
over
of
the
you.
top. Yeah.
So I'm like, dude, you can like go ahead. I don't know, maybe I'll give you a little fucking help.
Yeah. But then the next night, I don't even remember what happened, but we go to sleep, and I wake up at like 5:30, and I think Logan's phone's going off, or Dre. And we had like 3 beds or something. I'm trying to remember like our sleeping.
I think it was one king bed for all 4 of us.
No.
no, it was 2 like king beds, and you 2 shared one, and Dalton and I shared one.
Oh, yeah, that was right. Because I'm sitting there and I this alarm's going off and no one in the room's moving. Like I hear it start going off. I'm like, someone's gonna turn that off. I'm like, they gotta turn it off. And then I'm sitting there, it's just like wah wah wah, and I'm like, what the fuck is happening right now? So I get up and I'm like yelling at Dre. I'm like, turn off your fucking alarm. But yeah, I'm punching
I'm
him.
sitting there,
Like,
I grab my phone. I'm like, my phone's not going off.
he's looking at his phone. He's like, dude, it's not me. I'm like, so I go over and I start fucking with Logan. And then Logan's looking at me. He's like, dude, it's not me. Dalton is asleep with his phone on his face. It's like, whoa, whoa, whoa. I'm like, I literally look at him. I'm like, bro. And he's like,
Oh, you didn't hit him?
He looks at me and he's like, distraught. Like, do you hear that noise? I'm like,
Is that the fire alarm? Are you waking me up?
I'm like, how are you sleeping with this against your face going off?
No, it was literally under his head.
Yeah. But
I felt like I got caught in the crossfire.
We both did.
I worked my way across the room. Dalton was on the far side of the room. So I was figuring I should have started on the other side. Came
I
back.
think that's what we should do next time.
Yeah. All right. Lauren, did you come up with your story? Our South Dakota trip's done.
I don't know if I can beat that one. It is kind of fucked that these business trips stopped happening once I.
Yeah.
came
After our
home.
first one, I was glad I got everybody back.
Oh man. Okay, I think there's so many things to choose from, but if I was like solely looking at one of my favorite memories, I'd probably have to say when we all. I think this might actually be the last time, just like the basement crew did something together. Was my birthday to see Skillet and Theory of a Dead Man live in concert. That was just like
That was a shit show.
it kind of was,
That was
but
a wild night.
it was very fun. Very fun.
They really need to work on their acoustics up top there.
They do. The Midland kind of sucks,
I
but
don't think that's a screamo venue.
no, I think you're right.
I haven't seen anything else there.
That was built to do like live plays.
I think you're
Curveball.
spot on.
Yeah. When I got tickets, I'm like, whoa. I'm like, they got Aristocrat VIP area. Bet we're all getting those. They start playing. I'm like, I'm hearing it twice.
Yes. Yep.
A little bit of an echo up here.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's probably my favorite memory.
That was a good time.
That's a good time.
That was.
The first thing that I thought of was when we were walking through the Crossroads office for the first time. I think we met out there in the morning to go check it out, and just how much it felt like the obvious next step. And just that reassurance just felt cool that it was like the perfect spot for us and that we were on that right path. And it kind of feels like it's been a blur since then.
Yeah.
But that was the first thing that jumped out to me.
The funny thing is we were in a zero financial state to pull the trigger on that, like whatsoever. And I pulled the trigger on it, and Dre's like, dude, are you serious? He's like, I'm like, dude, if $5,000 is what takes us down, he's like, the new rent is, he's like, it's $13,000. And I was like, but 5,000 is what we have on the old
I'm
office.
talking about the old rent we still have.
Yeah, I do a lot of girl math and when I set it up.
And when we talk about Dane being the most lucky guy alive, is him coming into the River Market office. They ended up, someone bought the entire building. So then they're like, oh, well, we're just going to buy you out your lease. I'm like, what are the odds?
Right when we wanted.
Right when we want to leave, they're like, yeah, we'll just buy you out your lease. I'm like,
Perfect.
huh.
Good things happen to good people.
What?
Keep putting good out in the world and it'll come back.
Yeah, that one was wild.
Yeah, yeah. If we just keep, I mean, we talk about the swings that we've made. We've swung a lot that we've missed. So
No, I wish we had video of that. That video of the first time we all walked through the sales office together. It was in the 12-minute video.
Yeah, that was
I
cool.
thought that was pretty cool. But that was, I think all of us talked and were like, yeah, there's no way.
I think I really fucked up taking everybody there with me.
You did.
Because then everyone's like looking at me like, dude, this is sick. I'm like, yeah, this is expensive. I'm
Once
like,
everybody made 2 laps and he was talking
everyone's
about
like,
the
this is it.
internet.
I'm like,
It was built for marketing.
yeah.
Literally, yeah.
Then I'm
You're like,
sitting.
well, we're not going back to the river market after this, I guess.
Yeah, then you go up there, back. It's kind of cramped in here.
Wow, is there one bathroom?
Then they went in my financials. I'm like, Mass, I'm moving money over from personal accounts to the business accounts, so my financials qualify to get this.
I pad the stats a little bit.
Yep.
No, the day that we moved into River Market on 2 years too was
That, yeah, it was.
nothing in there. We all went there.
It also was a day where we were supposed to stay here and get all of our work done and then move everything. And I think it was like 30 seconds of us sitting at our desk, and then it was like, nah, let's just move everything now.
Yeah. Yeah, the River Market office, I think, was like, it truly was the first time that I felt like this was all real.
Yeah.
I think it gave us some legitimacy. Like, it was, we were legitimate, obviously, but
Yeah.
it gave us the feeling
I think
of
it,
legitimacy.
I'm going to say at that point was like, people always talk about like burning the ships and things like that. Like, you're all in, but that in your head is like really hard to formulate all the time. I think it was way different when I was at the dealership, when it wasn't like I had the whole weight of the world on my shoulders. Like when we pulled the trigger on the River Market, that was like when I was like, burn the fucking ships, let's ride. Like, we're going.
I think the only thing that hindered us at the River Market was there was, 10 people in there, and there was one bathroom.
The bathroom stitch was a little whack.
Bathroom
Awful.
stitch was a little wild.
The neighbors.
The
doing a
people
podcast
below
or
us, people
Running around
above us.
upstairs.
I think about how nice we have it now. We just blare music. Nobody's above us bitching at us. Nobody's like coming up and like saying some shit from downstairs. Like,
There is a knock that comes behind their wall. That was wild the other day. I was sitting. Yeah, there's like a knock. I'm sitting there. I'm like, you guys hearing this? Or oh, it happens all the time. I'm like,
oh, yeah.
I can't believe it took the people below us as many ping pong games as it did
that is
to
wild.
come upstairs. Like hundreds.
Dude, but like,
But that guy,
the guy that came up was so fucking rude, and I literally just looked at him. I was like, oh, I don't care, bro. And then just shut the door on him.
okay, there was a time he wasn't there that like Devin let him in, and he came over and we were in the middle of playing a game. I think it was the Asian guy. Yeah,
Yeah. No, that same guy came up to me. He like opened the door, and he was going to act like he was coming in. I was like, can I help you? And he's like, he goes, you know, we can hear that ping pong ball every single time it hits the ground. I was like, awesome. And I was like, I don't really care. It's like, I shut the door.
I
Like,
also pay rent in here.
yeah. You should have gotten a second floor, not the first,
Yeah.
buddy. I'm
Because we should have got the third
We have to
floor.
listen to people doing chair races above us, so
Yeah.
it's going to trickle down.
one time that guy did infiltrate our floor.
Yeah.
I remember he came in one day. I'm sitting there. I looked at him. Like, who's that?
You should have fought him for trespassing.
Dalton was like, "Okay, sorry, man, we'll put the ball up."
I mean, he had a legitimate.
That would
We
be
were
obnoxious.
Dawn's like, fair statement, bud.
That was
That
probably
would be frustrating.
that was probably the rubber match of our best of 3 to 21. So.
You should have looked at Dolan. But quit letting it hit the ground, dude. Catch it.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, we won't let it hit.
And there were some intense games there. So.
You know, now our ping
Done.
pong table it sits in the back.
I know.
But don't worry, there's a D-Max that would fit a ping pong table right there.
Yeah, so you guys can hit my car over and over with a ping pong ball. I've seen how half the people in that office play ping pong now. They lose. There's ping pong balls above your office
I know.
that they lost up there.
There was alcohol involved when we were playing it.
Dalton owned up to it. Look.
I didn't.
Extreme ownership, not my ball, dude.
Ping pong skills. I'll take anybody on any day.
I forget. I think who was it? It was
Ooh, you're gonna put him on the hot seat right here.
either
On
Zach or Cody, but they're like,
Whoa.
"Oh, dude, I'm like the best ping pong player." Ever. I think it was.
I don't think you realize how many games
I
of
was
ping
like-
pong we've played.
I was like, "Well, let's play then." Why not?
You tell them that's what we did for 2 years practicing in that basement.
That's all I did.
I did
It was like the Karate
We
Kids.
would
like,
have
it was-
straight up tournaments.
We set a GoPro up for one of Dalton and I's games and have it on my
Why?
in the basement.
No edits,
GoPro.
just raw
I
footage.
watched it. I watched it the other day. When we were looking for footage.
yeah.
At least we have that footage.
Yeah.
I really wanted to send it in for the video, but it would have taken up 10 minutes of the video.
12-minute video to 2 start. Have a minute start, minute end. Just big ping pong game in the middle.
All you hear is ping, 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 fuck. Ping, 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 ping.
All right, Dalton, what's your favorite story? You can't take South Dakota. They already took that one from you.
Manhandling the Iowa wrestler and stuff.
No, I don't know. I'm really leaning towards the river market office being the most memorable moment. It just felt like we were on the fucking path, on the way then. Like it was cool working in the basement. I liked it. Like we all got along and we had good times. But when you talk to someone, it's like, well, where's your office at? It's like,
Shoal Creek.
Shoal Creek.
It's full right now. You want to get lunch?
no, yeah, you can't. Go over. I don't know. Like I said, there was just like a
Yeah, 3
legitimacy
meetings over there
that,
right now.
that we gained. I feel like in my mind. I don't know how you guys felt about it.
Ricky told everyone we're in a basement.
I told a lot of people, not like people that we'd be working with as clients, but friends, family. I definitely emphasized the basement part and left the golf course part out of it.
Yeah. The basement was a lot cooler than people give it credit for.
Yeah.
It was.
Yeah. Wasn't that bad.
It really was.
You're gonna come over for a
It was
meeting?
well
Yeah,
lit, ping
disregard
pong
the dogs.
table.
Come on down.
Yeah. Having the dogs with us all the time was cool.
That was cool.
Oakley got really fat.
That's probably, that's the thing I missed the most about moving out of the basement.
Oakley?
Yeah. Oakley was fat.
He
in
was.
the
He
basement.
was.
That dude ate a lot.
He was healthy.
He's gotten a lot thinner
It's
since we
actually crazy.
Yeah.
What's your favorite?
I think it was, I don't know, just like the river market was like one. But then also I think this last social hour like kind of hit with like watching content, watching marketing, watching like sales, watching just everybody interact with one another. I was like, this is truly a team that like runs as one.
I will say used
To
to
it,
it.
social hours is like you had like an internal clique that like wouldn't really converse, and now it's like you look at anyone on any sector of the company, they're all out mingling with all the clients. Like I went outside and we had to the content guy. Yeah.
Jared and the unique properties guy.
Yeah, they're all just sitting out there
talking, and then same with one of the dealership owners. They're sitting out there talking with content guys, and I'm like, it's just so cool to see that like they all interacted. It's like you can see it in even the business owners, like they truly enjoy everyone, and they're like, I never got to meet so many individuals within a business. That is one of the guys. He's like, I worked with the company for 2 years before you guys. He's like, I didn't know a single person there. And he's like, besides the one person I talked to, he's like, I've already met your entire team. He's like, even people that don't work on my stuff there, they came in and talked to me, and he's like, it was just really cool to see.
So I agree with that.
Yeah, I think seeing that side of it and just watching everybody come together as one, and I feel like the craziest thing is the visions became the most unclear to me it's ever been. Just because I feel like it's gotten to where it's like out of grasp of what I can wrap my head around. Where I used to think the fantasy seemed like really crazy, and I was like, I'm thinking really big. I'm like, it's really far out there. It's gotten to where it's like I've wrapped my head around that like really easily now.
Yeah.
To where it's like I hadn't really planned past that. Like that was like that like lifetime like goal that I was like, if we get to the fantasy factory one day, like that's like going to be the pinnacle of like all of it. Now all of a sudden I'm like, I think we can start construction by end of next year. I'm like, so if we're there in the next 24 months and like moving in the fantasy factory, then I'm like, what are the next steps after that?
That's going to feel like the starting line.
It is like to where it's just,
And that's the game, though. It just, you keep reinventing it.
and I think the crazy thing is in 5 years, the game has, I feel like we've been learning how to play it. The vision, the goal has always been the same. So I feel like the vision, the goal is the same now. I've never been able to see the end of the runway. I think it's the hardest thing for me to wrap my mind around right now is like figuring out what nationwide will look like after that step, what it looks like for us to go everywhere. Like, I've been thinking, okay, like, how many jets do we need to like move people around? Like, what does that look like? Like, what does account managers look like? What's the next step of processes look like with people going all over the country? It's going to be way different. So I personally think that the Fantasy Factory has been level 1 of thinking that I have to start training myself to even think bigger, to open up that runway again. Because when I thought, like, when we got the river market, I'm like, oh, runway's wide open. And all of a sudden I'm sitting there, I'm like, fuck, I can see it like real close. I'm like, we're like 2 or 3 people trying to figure out, like, we're buying new desks, like changing it up. Like, I feel like right now with the overall physical footprint we have, like, we can take on a lot of manpower. We can take on, like, I don't feel like we're leveraged by space by any means. So it's like, I don't feel a constraint on that. I also feel like we're optimizing in a lot of different ways that are making us more efficient as we move. And I sit there and just think about everyone's going to stay the course. What's the course after the Fantasy Factory opens?
Multiple Fantasy Factories.
I think a TV show. I'm thinking we get Fantasy Factory 1, and that's going to end up being the baby Fantasy Factory. And we go to Dallas and we build.
We gotta go somewhere warm, man.
Yeah.
That is true.
We need to make a partnership with Jet Share Company.
I had one that was like open to doing a partnership with us, but I was trying to get jets to go to my wedding. I was going to fly all the guys down on one and all the girls down on another, but they didn't. Most of the jet share companies don't fly international. So,
Get him on the next one.
any other stories?
Not that.
The wild thing is we just went like an hour and
Tulsa
15.
was a good one.
Yeah, we'll avoid that one.
A few that can stay up there.
Yeah, that was wild. That just hour 15 like blew by and we had 2 questions.
Yeah. Dane, what question for you that I think was on your list for when you were supposed to do your solo podcast, but in the 5 years, is there anything that you feel like specifically happened that was like the most influential for MMG's growth in the last 5 years? Like, is there anything specific that sticks out and you're like, that was like the, like that was a very crucial moment?
I'm gonna say like to the point we were talking about earlier, like those people leaving to try to go against us, I think was a huge spot. Like,
Your first hire. I don't know.
I literally said on the thing that was a plan before I like even opened. I think one of the most crucial things I do as a whole is just pulling the trigger way before anyone else even thinks it's like time. Like, you just have to play the game that you're going to win. Like, you can't think of any other outcome but winning. I think that's like Patrick Bet-David's book, like the next 5 moves, like he talked about when he would meet with people, that their biggest thing they would calculate based on what they currently make. I've always moved in rhythm with growth is going to happen no matter what. So I think, I mean, when we're looking at the Crossroads location like that, that number made 0 fucking sense. 0. But it's also like when we lost the Briggs account, like that bus made 0 fucking sense. Like, bus is sick now. Like, everywhere we go, people know about the bus.
Imagine
But-
how much if we got it out of the office.
Yeah.
But it's
Imagine
just
if it ran.
yeah, it does run. Okay. It's just all those things that for a long time in my life, I thought when I said something, somebody else had to validate that it made sense. And it's like over 5 years, I've came to a spot that I believe in what I think, that I don't need anybody to tell me that it's the right idea. I know that I have a gift to have an idea that doesn't make sense, But it's like just follow that gut feeling that when we looked at that Crossroads office, like business wise, like if you looked at that, like it didn't make sense. But like inside, like I just had a feeling that I could see ourselves in there, that it could create different movement, that it could create a different atmosphere for clients to come into. That I think it's the same thing that what Walt Disney did with Disney World didn't make sense. Like they had amusement parks, they had a way that they did it. When he was creating Epcot, like the wild thing is Epcot still never turned out to what it was supposed to be. Roy didn't have the vision that Walt had. Towards like that like little piece of the puzzle is like the hardest piece to find. Towards like I know what my value point in the whole equation is now. I used to think my value point had to be doing everything. My value point now is like that one crazy thing that doesn't make sense that comes to me, act on it. Don't wait. Don't think that there's going to be the right time for that to work. Act on it. Like the sales office, I knew that there was something off about the sales system and the process that we were trying to implement in the office. I watched Ricky trying to sell over there. I knew that the system didn't work. It was broken. With everything that was happening, the sales office at that point made no fucking sense. Fast forward 6 months, it makes perfect sense. Towards, once again, in the end, everyone will say, oh yeah, I knew that was going to work. No, you didn't. Like, when I was pulling the trigger on that, I was looking at things, I'm like, and Dre's looking at me, he's like, oh,
Math ain't
bro.
mathin'.
He's looking at me, he's like, dude, what are you doing? I was like, we'll figure it out. Always do. So, I don't know, I think I believe in myself a lot now and those type of things. But it's like, I believe in the people around me too. I believe in you guys sitting here. I believe in everybody at the company. And I think that makes me way more aggressive in this space. That it used to be I'd run into something thinking I was competing by myself even when people were staying around me. But now when those decisions are made, that when I've given the power over and people use that power effectively and it ends up yielding something better, it fuels my confidence. Like when you keep that promise to yourself and then those people around you start keeping the promises to themselves, and that starts happening as a whole, like a whole movement starts happening that you can't correlate a number to it. So I think that's what I see is happening right now. Is just people, a company as a whole is coming into its own. So it's like, I don't know, it's kind of cool to watch.
It's pretty exciting.
It is.
I think another super influential part, especially with this group of 6 right here, it's not this big flashy thing that happened, but I think when we all took the personality tests with Tim Bass when he came in,
Yeah.
that felt like a huge pivotal moment because we were actually able to understand the way that everyone thinks and the fact that all 6 of us were all different personality types, and it made you not only realize how you learn and perceive things, but how other people also learn and perceive things.
Yeah,
That was a good one.
I used to think those were hokey pokey. I didn't take them real serious in college or high school or anything. But when Tim came in and did it at the office, it was like mind blowing. I also think when I took him in high school and college, I didn't have the level of thinking to be able to comprehend even what I was really learning.
I think people have to be honest with them.
Mm-hmm.
Because when people are not honest is when, I don't know who it was that had the same personality as you, but it
Yeah.
certainly
Yeah.
wasn't.
Yeah, there's definitely answers that somebody's like, I want to be
Yeah,
this
it's like-
person, and they
Yeah.
put it like, and I went through and I was like dead honest, and like I remember that there was like
Yeah.
a content person, and they're like, you guys are the exact same personality. I'm like going through, I'm like, no.
Interesting.
I'm not going to be able to remember what it was, but there's another type of test. It's like a personality test, but it's more like a reasoning test, and it's like reasoning to where like people. I mean, I guess the guy in the podcast was saying like typically it's not something where people can lie about it.
Yeah.
It's so I want to find it though, because I think it'd be good for everyone to do that too. It's just it's slightly different and more of like a reasoning, like long answer type of
We
tests.
probably need to be better at doing those too, like internally now,
Yeah.
for each respected department to understand the people that you're working with. Because ultimately, when we did it, I pretty much just focused on this room, on like how people were. I know that I'm not wired for everybody. I know that the way I come across, the way that like Dre and I were raised differently, and there's some people that just need that kind of affirmation all the time. They need the good job all the time, and it's like I've worked on trying to get better at that, but it's just like I've never been that kind of person. Like if you're not hearing from me, then that's a good thing. Like, but it's if you're hearing from me, then most likely something's messed up, and it's like that's where I think in the early days you're like, oh, if Dane wanted to talk, it's bad.
Yeah.
But it's like
That was a true statement.
but it was just like that's the only time that I was like directly gonna talk with someone.
Yeah.
Was it was bad.
She was also carrying a little bit of that in from a previous role. That's where
Fair.
part of it came from.
But also like I never got like angry at people, but it was just like
You mean you weren't gonna just blow up into a roid rage or something?
no,
Okay.
I didn't have any roids, so I couldn't rage. But
Broke at that point.
yeah, there's no rage there. But no, it's just me not saying something was like, hey, you're doing what you're supposed to be doing. But like that's just how I've always operated in business, and I know that I've had to evolve in that. That there's people that need a good job all the
Yeah.
and Madison's like she's told me like I've known those faults for a long time. I didn't want to accept them, but doing those personality tests I think was the first time that I kind of the person I realized it the most with was Ricky.
Yeah, you two were exact opposite, like
We were
personality
like
types.
polar opposites of what it was, and it was so many times that we sat in this garage and we'd argue. I was like, how the fuck does Ricky not see this? I'm like, why is he not on board with me on where I'm going? Like, but Ricky's way more calculated than me. Like, Ricky wants to know what each step looks like. And I'm like, dude, I don't know what fucking tomorrow looks like, but let's try it. And he's like, looking at me, he's like, you didn't think about this. I'm like, no, I didn't think about any of those things.
But at the same time, though, that can be a hindrance on my side. Is sometimes that keeps me from taking that first step because I'm like, well, step 10, we're gonna have this thing that's fucked up, so now we just don't do it at all. Well,
So it was like,
it's somewhere in between.
but after that, I feel like we communicated so much more effectively
Definitely.
because I'm like, hey, bro, I see that you're saying this. Let's like try to get here, like, but because we don't know if that's going to be a problem yet or not, like. But before it was just like it drove me up a fucking wall, like, but after doing those personality tests, I'm like, that makes a lot of sense. But I don't think without that, like, we wouldn't have got to that spot.
Yeah.
I think you guys would still be sharpening your spears, going like, he's coming in this morning, I'm fucking ready.
And it was something so simple, like that when they explained it that way, I was like, and then I started thinking about like conversations. I'm like, oh, that makes. I remember the Notion deal.
Oh my
Yeah.
god.
That's actually what the only thing I was correlating this to. I'm like,
I remember sitting there. I'm like, we're implementing Notion today, and Ricky's like, we're not ready. I'm like, dude, we've had 60 days. We're going with something. Like, I was like, I don't care if it's like just one task.
but I'll
But
walk out of that conference room. It's like,
No.
okay.
look at us now.
Yep.
Yeah, it's
You know, that's one of two times I've had to do that pretty much. The first time was getting Dre and Dalton to use Lightroom because we were editing all of. I told them I was like,
Our
figure out.
content days.
I was like, figure out how to batch edit in Lightroom because we were exporting everything off the cameras to phones, editing on our phones and airdropping to computers.
We don't need to say that.
So I told them I was like, there's a way to do this on a computer, and it went like 4 weeks and they still weren't doing it. And they were one day they're like, well, we have all this blah blah, and they were sitting there. I was like,
No, we were
I
doing
came
it on
unglued
computer at this point.
right
We just weren't
there.
Batch editing.
what?
We just weren't batch editing. We were going through each photo editing.
Yeah, and I told him I was like, there's a way to batch edit, and then.
It's an art,
And
dude.
then Dre's sitting there, he's like, says something like it can't be done or something, and it just fucking blew a fuse. But those are like probably the only two times.
We were standing right there.
Yeah, right there.
We had just gotten done golfing.
Yeah. But I was like, yeah, I don't know. Just, we got to implement something.
Yeah.
We're going to figure out if it works or if it doesn't work. One or the other, we're another step ahead.
And it's wild how it comes full circle too, because now
We
like,
look
with our
at-
team, we're mad about them not using the shit that we're giving up. And I'm like, here's this tool. Figure out how to fucking break it as fast as you can until we can figure out how it works.
Yeah. But that's where I would way rather just like plug in Notion, start using it, plug something in. If anything, in 1 week, we are going to know a closer direction this way or a farther away direction this way. One of the two.
Fell fast.
Yeah, because Notion wasn't our first option.
Yeah, we tried Monday before that.
Shift in all of our mindset is using tools to help us.
Yeah.
Yeah, we used to not do that at all.
We were very against that. For some reason, we like the manual work. I don't know why.
We had a good process in place, and it wasn't really broken.
So
It was just slower than
It was
We
slower.
could have done half the work.
we
Yeah,
really
we
like
weren't looking at efficiencies.
early days of business. I really like to flex we work really hard. And I think because we sat there and just worked our asses off on things, we didn't work very efficiently at all. But we worked a lot.
We did work hard.
Yeah. As we progressed and I sat in some really big rooms, I figured out that wasn't a really cool flex anymore.
What do you mean you're taking 3 days off? That doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
During
Part-timer?
the week?
Part-timer? Like, but it was, I think that was from the car world that I just had that mentality. That shift has changed a lot too. That if I don't have something on my calendar, like it took me 4.5 years to get to a spot that I don't feel guilty like if I'm not at the office. I used to feel so guilty like if I wasn't sitting at my desk. Like I'm like, even if I don't have something, I'm sitting at my desk, I'm there an hour early, that's what I'm gonna do.
Sounds like some part-timer would say.
Yeah. But no, I had been burnt out on podcasting a little bit for a while, and I really actually enjoyed this a lot.
This was good.
It was fun.
I knew this would be an easy conversation, and we've been doing podcasts for 170 weeks now.
I was kind of nervous.
Yeah, it's been doing taco reviews for a long time. Just a lot of those once again, these are the times that will matter. When you don't want to do it, still doing it. But
Dude, I just realized the Taco Tuesday is going to turn 3 this October, and that was a little bit of a mindfuck there.
Is this the main? This is the main thing that's living from the basement that we started in the basement. Like this is a huge pivotal moment. We started the podcast.
that's true.
The only thing, right?
I mean,
I'm-
I'm still
I'm-
here.
I'm-
We're all still living.
I mean, like,
No, I completely.
it was a pivotal moment when we started this.
Yeah.
And then it has still been going. And then from the River Market office, it would be the taco reviews.
Yep.
So we started those in
What are we gonna
What new are we
start
gonna
in the
start in
crossroads?
Oh, dude, guys, I can't keep reviewing
Let's bring the
food.
whiskey.
What about
Wednesday.
whiskey? Is this leading into a whiskey Wednesday?
Yeah.
And we're live.
Social hour.
That's how I was, yeah.
Thank you guys for joining what we're actually doing, and we brought you here for Whiskey Wednesday.
See, Ricky, that was one of those things where we didn't think it through. We just started doing it.
Yeah.
True. Like,
We did get a lot of comments when we just get smoked on whiskey. A lot of people would ask.
Colton liked them.
I think we got an account off that.
Yeah, we did get an account. We got one account.
Yeah.
No shit. That was from the Whiskey Wednesdays.
So I did.
Get all the
I don't think
phones out. We're going
I don't think
live.
our whiskey Wednesdays in here crazy effective, but the ones I did at the office I liked. The only thing I didn't really like was doing a whiskey Wednesday at fucking 9 a.m. in the morning.
For the content,
They're
man.
like, "Hey, we need one." I'm like, "I got appointments all day." They're like, "How about right now?" And I'm like, okay."
Go meet with your appointment.
And they're
Have you been drinking?
Hey,
Like,
Winston Churchill drank all day.
Yeah, they're like,
He
"Can you?"
drank for breakfast.
They're like, "Can you do 2 of them right now?" I'm like, "Yeah, I guess." I'm sitting in there, and yeah, that really made me feel like a degenerate. So, yeah, if we could do whiskey Wednesdays, like,
Oh, kind of like how we do
Evening?
the podcast not actually on Wednesday or on Monday. That'd be crazy.
we don't do taco reviews on Tuesday either.
You do. You do 95% of the time. Oh, we got ahead for 3 weeks. Let's not do one for 3 weeks.
I'm the one eating the tacos every week. Okay,
Good job, man.
You know, I think
It's
this
a lot
is
of
I think this is a good spot to wrap up.
I think it is too. No final. No, not over here.
We'll catch you at 10 years.
Yeah, we'll see you back here again in 10. That's in 3 podcasts. Peace.